Hej, nu har det ringt in igen, rasten är slut. Dags för livescenen här igen. Hörrni, redan i morse i Anders Korsvalls inledning så pratades det om vikten av webbsäkerhet. Det är dags igen och den här gången direkt från Oslo med Markus Andersen på Webstep som är specialist på just IT-säkerhet. Hur är läget i Oslo, Markus?
Det går veldig bra i Oslo her. Det ikke så fint vær og sånt nå, og strømprisene er skyhøye, men det har jeg hørt er høye i Sverige også.
Härligt. Du, Markus, visst vill du ha massa frågor och funderingar på chatten efter ditt föreläsning, eller hur? Man kan ställa frågor till dig.
Ja, vi tar en Q&A efter presentationen.
Jajamän, så det är bara att ställa frågor till dig i chatten alltså. Men du, varsågod. Dags för dig.
Tack så du ha. I'm going to hold this presentation in English. So I heard some Swedes don't understand Norwegian too good or too well. So this is in English. So I'm going to talk about in a world of security breaches, and I'm going to touch within some what is hacking, who gets hacked, what are the consequences, and some points on how we can protect ourselves. That's what the presentation is going to be about. And just a little bit about me. I'm a civil engineer. I have a wide experience within security. I worked with defense systems or with NSA, Norwegian National Security Agency, or NCSC, short. And at that place, I was an incident handler, and for the most part, you do surveillance and you do some forensics on cyber attacks. And in Norway, I think there's about three-digit number amount of companies registered under this surveillance service called VDI. You could say it's a warning system for digital infrastructure, and for the most part, yeah, surveillance and investigating attacks and some threat intelligence as well. And among all countries, I can say I think Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea are the most progressive. Besides that, there's a lot of attacks going on all the time. And I think, don't quote me on this, but in like 100 cases or attacks, I think only one of them reaches the news. So there's a lot of stuff happening that you don't see at all. And probably the most common attack is BEC fraud, business email compromise. And you don't hear at all that much about it, but it's really common. And I'm going to tell you a case about it a little bit later. So from working with defense systems and surveillance in Norway, I took my time over to Watchcom Security Group as a penetration tester. So from defending systems to attacking systems, that was a lot of fun. Definitely something that can do a lot of harm. And from assignments, I was hacking boats, planes, banks, and even the power grid, which was both really exciting and really scary at the same time. Can you imagine just sitting there like, oops, I think I turned off all the power in Oslo. I don't think I would still have this job if that happened, but you really never know. So that was a lot of fun. And after that, I went to Webstep as a security consultant. I've been helping a lot of different companies as a security architect and a lot of different roles. Lastly, I helped out the Norwegian police. And that's a little bit about me. So first of all, I'm just going to fire this off with a question. Who has the responsibility for security? You can think about it for a while, but I'm not going to let you think about it for too long because the answers should be obvious. It's you. It's not the finance. It's not the HR department. It's not the developers. It's everyone. So not only the security team is responsible for it, but you have to do your part as well. So think about that. So what is hacking? It's a good question because not a lot of people know exactly what it is. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. Myself, I'm an ethical hacker. That means that I try to find vulnerabilities and not exactly exploit them, but I want to find them and I want to fix them. So the unethical ones, unethical hackers, those are the ones that exploit the vulnerabilities and want to deploy some ransomware or get some information, want to get some cash or anything in their interest. Even denial of service or supply chain attacks are known as well. Supply chain attacks, you probably heard about SolarWinds, where Microsoft and FireEye, even a security firm, got attacked by this or affected by this. So that was a lot of fuzz about. So I'm an ethical hacker, and what is pen testing? I try, as I said, to find big implementations, lack of update and patching routines, and show them security best practice. Well, what's the best thing to do today? So that's that. Some of the frameworks we use are always top 10. You can see it on the left side there, where you have security misconfigurations, insecure, disrelation, sensitive data, user data, or something like that. But the most fun one is probably cross-site scripting. I think that's a lot of fun. That's where you inject JavaScript code to the web page. And I'm going to show you an example just later, what can happen from just a small vulnerability as a cross-site script. And of course, some other frameworks like PTS and ASVS. What are some security terms? I'm just going to name some of them, and you should know the difference between authentication and authorization. Authentication means that you have to prove who you are, have to show your identity, whilst authorization is that you have access or authority to do something. So the difference is probably a user and an admin on a web page. Just to give you an example. And of course, accountability is very important. A lot of companies seem to forget this. It's who did what, when and where, and probably logs. If you have logging on your services or infrastructure or web pages, that's the accountability. And it's really important to store this for a certain amount of time. I remember we had a mission out at a customer, and the attack happened like 3 months ago, more than that. And usually that most attacks don't get discovered right away, and that has to do with capabilities and what the companies prepare themselves for or have of security systems. So we couldn't, long story short, we couldn't see what the attackers did in the system. So they had to clean up the whole infrastructure. So that was a lot of work. So who are the hackers? A lot of people think these are some kids or just somebody sitting in a basement at home, just having fun. But for the most part, it's advanced groups supported by governments. Also known as advanced persistent threats. There's a lot of different ones from all over, and some security firms give them each a name. So if you know the pictures, you can see Fancy Bear, Deep Panda, and Charming Kidding. These are some of the most active ones, and I think they have a lot of interesting exploits or attacks that they're doing. And black, gray, and white hat hackers. I'm a white hat hacker. I try to fix problems instead of exploiting them. So who gets hacked? Very interesting question. You probably read a lot about it in the news. I have my my philosophy, and that is that everyone gets hacked because all companies have a probability of getting hacked at any time. So they should always prepare to at least some degree of it happening with security systems or be paired with some other frameworks. So I'm just going to tell you some news stories I've picked out for this session. The Norwegian Stortinget was attacked by some username password spraying, and the attackers got access to multiple accounts. That wasn't too bad, but I think they managed okay. Another consulting company, they got attacked by a ransomware. I think they spent about 500 million kroner, Norwegian kroner, to get back to their normal status, and that is really, really bad. It takes a lot to come back to the normal state. They lose revenue, and they lose all their employees, the consultants. They can't work, so it's a really bad situation. And probably if you prepared better, it wouldn't cost that much, but you can always say that in the past. A Norwegian municipality got attacked from ransomware. Even their backups got attacked by the ransomware and deleted. So that was not good. I think they spent like 8 months now, and I don't know how many millions of kroners, but they spent a lot to get back to their normal state. And another municipality was attacked. Even the Norwegian Oljefondet was part of this SolarWinds attack, but I think they got rid of their agreement just before this happened. So I think they were safe. Nothing more information came out from that case. So another consulting company was attacked. Some of their customers got affected by this, but the attack wasn't too big, so I think they managed pretty well. You all probably heard about the Norwegian Hydro ransomware. They had to disconnect almost all computers, go back to their old paperworks. Luckily, they had some old employees still left, so they could show them how it was done earlier days. So that was lucky, or I don't know what do you want to call it, but they also, I think they had to spend about 750 million kroners to get back to their normal state. So it's a lot of money in these huge companies. And lastly, I want to tell you about the Coop attack. All their payment system didn't work because of ransomware as well. That was pretty devastating. 800 stores got affected by this. And some of the consequences are much more than just you can't have customers. I'm going to tell a little bit about that. Because in this case, every day they receive lots of goods and like meat and other goods that don't get put in the freezer, so they don't last that long. And I think I recall reading somewhere that a farm of minced meat got lost every day, something like that, and that's just insane to think about it. That's something you don't read about, or I did, but it's not no news you read about from consequences. So it's more than just loss of revenue that get lost. So that's pretty bad. And a Norwegian company called Norfund, they got attacked by a BSC fraud or BSC scam, where the attackers, they intercepted the email and they changed the account number. So all of a sudden, 100 million kroner, Norwegian kroner, got sent to Mexico. So that's pretty bad as well. It's a lot of money. So you have to be prepared for that as well. And the last part was that the Norwegian hospital, Helse Sør-Øst, if you talk about loss of life, it was pretty not devastating, but it could happen because when you have attackers in the networks, you're not really sure what all the systems, all the computers, servers, what are they doing? Are they responsible for people's lives? For instance, today, if we look at COVID, You have people with respirators, and if you shut down one of those respirators, that person would probably have a tough time and probably lose their life. So that's pretty bad. And the case, I mean, they had to build up all their networks and everything from scratch, and that's pretty harsh. So you have to prepare. I'm going to tell you a little story from an assignment. One of my former colleagues, Olav, he discovered a vulnerability in Cisco Jabber, which is a worldwide instant messaging service. And it's a desktop app, but it's like a web application. It uses the Chromium embedded framework, and it's sort of like you send a message in both XML and plain text, which includes both plain text and HTML. I mean, sorry. So I'm going to go into detail about this. So please, I hope you all can pay attention and follow through. I'll do my very best to take it slow. So this is what it looks like. This is XML with both plain text and HTML. You can see the test message, and that's a text message that you get from your friend or your colleague or whoever it is. So what we tried to do was try to implement some JavaScript into the code. Here we see an image that tries to play an animation, and it says alert XXS cross-site script. And what happens is that you get a message like this. It pops up, and that's not the behavior of the chat application. That's something we put in. That's the JavaScript. So that's the first indicator of something is wrong. That should not work. They should add filters and encoding and sanitation for fixing this. But we thought, what more can we do? Can we do something else? Like, can we run some files? And yes, we tried opening a calculator. You can see open file, and it says calc.exe on the last part there. And this is what it looks like. A normal message gets sent from my friend, and then the exploit is sent. And suddenly I have a calculator, and that should not happen. So that was a lot of fun. But do you stop there? I don't know. Can we do anything more? You probably guessed already, but yes, we can. So we paid a lot of attention to the news, did some Googling, and all of a sudden a tweet came up from Spotless where they said you can dump the credentials from the user on the computer from Cisco Jabber. Long story short, this is a program that has the memory of your computer, and Windows computers, they have a valid session if your password is in the memory. So I hope you could follow through on that. So what we did is that we tried to do the same thing, try to dump the memory from this function. I'm just going to show you the last result, which looks like this. You can see the username and the password. This is, of course, not real. I couldn't show you the real thing because obviously. So what do you think we can do with all of this? Now we have a cross-site script that turn into running files, that turn into getting credentials. Yeah, long story short, we could get the credentials for every employee in the company, and we could run code on every computer in the company. So that was a lot of fun, and I think they got a little bit scared, but they definitely got some respect. So that was really fun. So lastly, how can we protect ourselves? I've been talking a lot about what can happen and that we have to be prepared. I'm just going to show you some different photos. Not going to tell you so much in detail about it, but CM is a tool that gives you alarms and notifications when something bad has happened or something that you wanted to deploy on or alert you on. So that's really important. All the logs that you gather every day from the network, from the web applications, they can be put into this CM tool or similar. And a free tool is the Elk-Stack, Logstash, Elasticsearch, and Kibana. That's really nice tool. You can gather your logs there, and you can have forensics doing work in Kibana because it gives you a nice dashboard and shows you what's happening. I think you even can implement some alerts for that tool as well. So that's really nice. You can implement some network segregations and segmentations that you have different zones for different kind of work. So if you have some really important stuff or documents or systems that you don't want to be on the internet, then probably have it in your own network segregated place. And even if you're in the cloud, you should always keep what's safe, what should be safe in a different place than everything else. You can even implement different user roles and have good IAM control, identity access management. And lastly, you can use the zero trust model. It's a little bit more complicated because you really don't trust anything. I mean, it doesn't make sense that your printer is talking to your web page. Maybe some places, but not really. So here you have to identify all the time, and you say that we are attacked at all times. You prepare yourself that something has happened and you have to be prepared. So if something goes wrong, you always get alerts. And zero trust is kind of a different system, and it's really big hassle to get up and running. But once you got it, it's really, really secure and really good. You got good control, but you have so much management. You have to have a lot of people just to get this up and running. You can implement stuff like password managers or passwordless applications and solutions. As I said, you can segregate your servers and put them in different zones. Network routers, you can have guest networks segregated, or all the computers from bring your own device in a node network, and the computers from the company in their own segregated networks. Put up firewalls, different places. There's so many things you can do. You can even put up virtual private networks. That's a lot of new companies have put up virtual private networks because of COVID and home office. You can even do white and blacklisting on content that you can access on the web or in your servers. Network switches, and lastly, IDS and IPS, intrusion detection system and intrusion prevention system. So all this connects up to how you prepare yourself for better security. And there's a lot of stuff you can do, but you have to know what gives us the most value for our case. So that's when you try to talk about risks and which risks do you accept and which ones do you don't accept. So a famous Norwegian skier once said that he's willing to take risks if he understands the risks. And that's when I want to ask you the last question. Do you guys understand your risks? And that's the question I'm going to leave you with. And lastly, I want to tell you about our booth. We have a colleague over at the Chocolate Wheel, so you can win some really nice prizes over there. So please join our booth, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Markus. Everyone wants chocolate, isn't that right?
Yes, that's right. Everyone loves chocolate.
Perfect. Christine? Reactions from the chat room?
And I think it's really important to work with this, but also I think a lot of people think it's kind of boring. But what's the biggest Is it still you click wrong links or have bad passwords, or what's the biggest danger, or what do you see people have to work with?
That's a good question, because passwords are one thing, but being aware of phishing and spam emails that could potentially lead to compromise, that's really common. And everyone clicks phishing links. Even I click phishing links. So don't be scared. The most important thing you do is just tell everyone that you did it, you're sorry, and you want to help. So don't be scared for doing something wrong. We all do it. So that's really important. Be honest.
I follow Christine's lead here. If let's just say if I was a security idiot, what's the one advice you would give to me then?
Improve your passwords.
Okay, it's time for that, I think. This area also, Markus, changes and moves so fast. For example, in the case of new laws and demands, how are we supposed to keep up? What's your advice here?
I think that the digitalization that's happened the last, I think like 10, 15 years or 20 years, if you look further back, it has focused on getting revenue and value from everything we're doing. And we kind of forget that security is a part of it. And we have to pay attention to all our risks. When you make investments or financial investments, you value the risks up and down. Do we want high risk or high reward, or low risk and low reward? You should do the same thing with security. So to stay up with all the laws and different changes, I think we just have to focus more on it, and people should stay alert and awake. And as I started the presentation with, everyone's responsibility.
Responsibility to get the knowledge you need.
Yes.
You talked about ethical versus unethical hacking before. Is there any gray areas to that, you think?
Yes, there could be, because you can always try to be a kind person and find a vulnerability, but it's kind of how you approach with the vulnerability. Some people come to the Norwegian Armed Forces and say, hey, I find a vulnerability, now pay me money. I want a bug bounty. And that's kind of not the correct way to go about it. And even a case in Norway, in Bergen, I think there was a 13-year-old child who found a vulnerability in the municipality, and they threatened to go to court with him, which later happened that they took it back, and he got a job at DNB. So that was a lot of fun. So you have to be careful what you do and how you treat the information you have.
Smart recruiting.
Yes, very.
You talked also about the consequences here when we listen to you, except for the obvious loss of life. Except for that one, which one do you think is the worst of the consequences?
It depends on the company and your resources and really what you value the most. Some companies value their money, other value their solutions. So if you lose your most valuable application that you build your whole company on, that's probably the worst thing that can happen. But for other companies like banks, if you lose all your money, you're bankrupt. So it really depends. But I would say money or your application that's really close to your heart or the firm.
Christine, do you think about something else?
No, I'm just thinking about can we protect ourselves, because it feels like the hackers are always one step ahead.
That's a good question. I believe that everyone can get attacked or hacked at any time. So the best way to be prepared is to have the capability to discover these attacks and have incident response and be able to handle them as soon as possible, so that you don't wander around for 3, 4, 5 months and suddenly, oops, everything's gone wrong and nothing is working. Try to connect to the Wi-Fi today, but suddenly everything's locked down. So to discover cyber attacks is probably the most important way to prepare.
Markus, we have established that we all have a responsibility to get the knowledge in this field. What's your tips for us? Where do we get knowledge and inspiration?
And news sites are really good podcasts. I have lots of great podcasts I could recommend, but that's for another time, I think. So just be asking questions and wonder how can this happen or what could happen. Try to read some technical papers on cyber attacks, and I think that would give you much value. Even try to talk about it and find some other people that have interest. I think that's interesting to have discussions about it.
Yeah, raise the question.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Markus. I think Christine and I have to go soon and change our passwords.
Yep.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. Markus Andersen from Webstep, that is. Bye Oslo for now. Ja, vi har vinkat hej då till Oslo där. Tackar Markus för den viktiga och intressanta dragningen. Jag kan säga att det börjar lukta lite gala här inne på kontoret här i Örebro. Jojomensan. Vilka kommer att ta hem priserna i Site Vision Awards? Snart kommer ni att få reda på vilka vinnarna blir. Bästa kommersiella webbplats, bästa offentliga webbplats och bästa intranät. Jag kan säga att juryn har haft ett tufft jobb och gått igenom alla finalister. Men ni ska snart få reda på vilka som vinner det efter pausen. Så jag tycker att ni ska gå och leta rätt på partyhatten helt enkelt och göra er redo både för gala och prisutdelning i Site Vision Awards, men såklart också för efterföljande after work i Primetime-appen. Hörrni, 2:15, då är det dags för vår sista del för idag. Vi ses då!